I may be pretty, but I'm not a girl. Written by otomegamesimp, read by Envious Rat. Rating general audiences. Fandom DCU Comics, pairing Tim Drake and Connor Kent. Summary. The year just started and Tim is already thoroughly exhausted and ready to quit. Okay, that may be an exaggeration, but the point stands. He did not sign up to be oogled by his loud classmates as they whisper about how pretty he is. Tim is not pretty, and he most definitely is not a girl. Even if the handsome guy in a leather jacket apologized for the catcalls, Tim is still upset about it. Author's notes. I may be obsessed with TimCon, so I'm just posting this and hoping for the best. Also, please let me know if the small amount of cursing means this should be rated teen instead of general. As Tim walks through Ivy University's campus, he can't help but admire the contrast between here and Gotham. Whereas Gotham has smog and light pollution and abandoned buildings in every section of the city, Ivy University is well kept with lush lawns, flowers blooming in carefully tended beds, and clear skies just beyond the tall brick buildings. He treads the paved sidewalk without a crack in sight as he heads for the building in the center of campus where his freshman orientation seminar is being held. He pushes open the glass double doors and glances around. The room is mostly open, but there are some couches and chairs next to small tables so students can study before or after their classes. Just beyond those chairs are a pair of double doors propped open with a sign for freshman orientation. He briefly catalogs the staircase to his right and the hallway leading to more classrooms on his left, but his goal is right in front of him. He takes long strides through the open doors without pausing. The large room is an amphitheater, or it reminds him of one, with its many rows of descending seats leading to the large flat area with a podium for a lecturer. There are a few other students sitting sporadically throughout the room, but Tim ignores them all, in favor of finding a seat at the front. Usually Tim would sit at the back because he snuck into his class late after an all-nighter, but he is early for once, and he will take advantage of that today. A peaceful quiet settles over Tim. He blocks out the world around him as he reads, focusing entirely on the latest news for Wayne Enterprises that may affect Bruce and his brothers back in Gotham. He's so focused on business articles that he nearly jumps out of his seat when boisterous laughter echoes the room. He tries to go back to reading, but an amalgamation of voices from a few rows behind him continue to take him away from the article. His eye begins to twitch with every additional word he hears from the group. Tim spins around in his seat to glare at the other freshmen who can't seem to shut up for even a moment. Tim makes eye contact with a boy who nearly takes his breath away. His eyes are as blue as the sky, his skin is sun-kissed as if he lives outside, and his dark curls are pushed back by a pair of glasses on his head. The boy's wide eyes and slack jaw remain only for a few seconds before a smile makes its way on his face and he winks at Tim. Tim turns back to the front of the room, trying to fight back the heat that blooms across his cheeks and the back of his neck. He wants to go back to the business articles on his phone, but one of the boys behind him wolf whistles, and he hears someone in the group say, "That chick was totally checking you out, Con." A shiver takes over his spine, but it feels like a centipede is stomping over the surface and making his insides crawl. He hates hearing that. He knows he has softer features than most guys his age, and he keeps his hair long, but he didn't think he looked feminine enough for anybody to actually think he's a girl. Tim regrets wearing his hair up in a claw clip today. He regrets leaving his reading glasses in his dorm when he could have hid behind the glass and pretended he wasn't affected by their words. He wants to tell them to fuck off. He wants to run out of the room. He wants to sink into the ground and hide until they stop looking at him and stop talking about him. But their professor starts to lecture, and Tim is a good student, so he takes notes with his laptop and ignores the two loud whispers from the middle of the room. After an hour of learning about campus resources and freshman events to adjust to university life, the professor dismisses the class with a suggestion to attend a campus event before their lecture next week. Tim doesn't waste a moment in sliding his laptop back into his messenger bag and uprooting himself from his seat. He slips between people to get out of the lecture hall, ignoring the increasing volume of whispers from the guys in the middle row. In addition to their loud whispers, Tim can see the group of guys shoving each other as Tim draws closer to their row. One of them says, "Here's your chance," before a final push brings the one he locked eyes with earlier. Con. if their not so subtle whispers were to be believed, careening into this aisle right where Tim is passing. The sudden force knocks him off his feet, despite all the years of karate strengthening his body and balance. Tim just sits on the floor of the aisle while people step around him in an attempt to recalibrate his thoughts. When his confusion passes, he glances up and his heart nearly stops at the sight in front of him. His breath certainly catches in his throat as he tries to swallow away the sudden dryness. Con is beautiful, sure. Tim briefly saw his blue eyes and soft skin and dark hair, but he couldn't have seen how his eyes shine in the light, or how his thick brows furrow with concern, or how voluminous his thick curls are. And his muscles. God, he's huge. Tim has to force his expression to remain neutral before he starts to drool all over the sheer attractiveness of Con. Tim considers taking Con's hand. He wants to reach out and feel the rough calluses on his fingertips and palms, but he stops himself at the sight of the leering grins from the men behind Con. The men let out more wolf whistles as they tell Con to get some. With a sharp inhale and a sharper glare, Tim pushes himself to his feet and walks past Con's shocked form. His friends are all assholes, and Tim won't give any of them the satisfaction of so much as a smile in their direction. As he continues to push his way through the lingering students in the aisle, he hears the guy slap Con on the back and a snicker about how embarrassing that rejection was from such a cute chick. Tim's ears burn. He has half a mind to turn around and correct them, but he doesn't want to spend another minute here. He rushes back to his dorm, feet kicking up dirt as he takes a shortcut through neatly cut grass instead of paved paths. His room is on the second floor, but he keeps his pace while climbing the stairs. He unlocks the door and immediate relief hits him as he sees an empty room. His roommate isn't here either. Even though he's been on campus for less than a week, Tim has learned much about his roommate. Wesley Thomas is tall and scrawny, with thick glasses, freckles all over his cheeks, and a mess of blonde curls atop his head. He's grumpy, hates being called Wes, and snaps at Tim when the lights are on past his self-imposed 9 p.m. bedtime. Wesley also keeps his own mini-fridge under his raised bed, and he guards it like a dog. Tim has a few guesses for what contraband Wesley is hiding, but he's not about to snitch on him and make the rest of the year they are stuck as roommates any worse. Tim closes the door behind him and falls face first onto his twin mattress. If there weren't other people beyond the paper-thin walls, he would scream into his pillow. He needs to do something to release his frustration before it eats him up. All of Bruce's children have learned how to process their negative emotions in various ways. Dick has gymnastics, Jason has his shooting range, Cass has dance, and even Damien found a release through swordplay. And Tim is no exception. He can't exactly perform any of his practice katas in a dorm room, so the next best thing is to go to the campus gym and exercise until the ache in his bones overwhelms the thought and feelings in his head. It doesn't take long to exchange the oversized sweater and jeans Tim was wearing to class for practical joggers and a graphic t-shirt for the gym. When he returns to his dorm room, it is dark outside. His arms are sore and his legs are heavy, and all he wants to do is collapse onto his twin-size bed for some semblance of comfort and rest. Unfortunately, Wesley seems to have a different plan for him. Wesley's nose is scrunched up as he looks down at Tim. "You look like you came out of a dumpster. Actually, you smell like a dumpster too. I could smell you coming from down the hallway." Tim rolls his eyes. Yeah, give me a minute and I'll clean myself up." By the time Tim has showered and laid down in his bed, he has all but forgotten the events that made him so upset just earlier that day. Classes have officially started at Ivy University this week, so Tim has kept himself busy with coursework. In fact, it is coursework for his Introduction to Business course that Tim is working on while waiting for the second freshman orientation lecture to start when someone breaks his focus. "Mind if I sit here?" The voice is deep and warm, but there is something hesitant in the boy's tone. Tim raises a finger toward the mystery man, as he finishes reading the section he was on before carefully marking his place, closing the textbook, and turning to face him. The mystery person who just so happens to be the guy from last week, with the leather jacket and confident smirk, and the stupidly attractive face. Con. If what the whispers behind him last week have any merit, Tim almost drops his jaw in shock, but he schools his face to a neutral expression. He doesn't know what is happening here, but he won't be the first to crack. The guy smiles, but it's awkward, strained. Tim can't stop himself from analyzing the tightness in the crease of his eyes and the stiffness in his shoulders. Tim sighs and waves a flippant hand to the seat. Suit yourself. Just that small concession is enough to calm the tension in Con. His grin grows as he slides into the seat next to Tim and twists to face him. I'm Connor Kent from Smallville, Kansas. Tim. Oh. Connor's. Eyebrows furrow and his smile falls ever so slightly. His eyes flicker up and down Tim's form discreetly, but Tim still catches the movement and adds it to his mental catalog of the boy. What's Tim short for? Timothy. Tim finally drops his neutral facade to narrow his eyes at Connor. By the way, your friend's behavior last week was deplorable. If that's how you treat women, I don't envy your dating life. Not that Tim has had much one of himself lately. Connor winces. I didn't know they would push me into you. I let them know that was really uncool of them right after you left. He opens his mouth to continue before closing it. It takes a few tries, but he finally says, I didn't mean to assume anything either. It's just, with the long hair and all, you make a really pretty girl. Tim raises an eyebrow. This is shaping up to be one of the worst apologies I've received. Connor's face drops further. He looks like a kicked puppy. I'm sorry. Well, Tim bites back the urge to deliver a scathing remark. He'll take mercy on the man in front of him. It's fine. Just tell your asshole friends to knock it off. Done. Tim bites back his amusement at how quick Connor's response was. And stop calling me pretty. That kind of talk can really bruise a guy's ego. Connor's face flushes a deep red. His jaw drops and he sits there like a dead fish for a moment, before nodding his head so fast Tim is worried he'll get whiplash. Yeah, of course, I'll just go sit with my friends now. Yeah, bye. That was interesting. Tim watches as Connor's sudden movements nearly knocks over the chair he was sitting on as he rushes away. Tim wants to study Connor some more, but he turns back to the front of the room as the lecture begins. From that day onward, every time Tim sees Connor, Connor is turning away from Tim with a red face. It happens when they bump into each other in the library. It happens when they're walking in the same direction to or from class. It happens when they meet eyes from across the campus lawns. Tim has a sneaking hunch that Connor's reaction is more than just embarrassment from mistakenly thinking Tim was a girl. Tim finally has enough of Connor's avoidant behavior after 2 weeks of odd eye contact followed by hasty exits. Connor. Tim rests a hand on Connor's shoulder before he can run away again. I think we're overdue for a chat. Connor visibly gulps, and Tim almost feels bad for forcing this conversation onto him. Almost. This has been driving Tim crazy, and he will get answers here. He stills his resolve not to give in to Connor's pitiful expression as he leads Connor to an empty bench off the path leading back to freshman dorms. Tim is fully expecting to have to kickstart this conversation, but Connor shocks him by speaking first. I know you said not to call you pretty, but you are, and I can't stop thinking about you. That gives Tim pause. He tilts his head to the side as he examines Connor's behavior since their first conversation. It's like a puzzle coming together, but Tim still can't see the full picture. Tim sighs. You should save this kind of talk for someone you're actually interested in. I am, Connor interrupts Tim. In you. I'm interested in you. So you were just calling me pretty because you thought I was a girl? No, yes, but listen, I may have thought you were a girl at first. Tim feels a pang deep in his chest. But that doesn't change that I still find you attractive now. Another puzzle falls into place. So you don't only like girls, Tim asks, leaning into Connor's personal space to find any clues that may suggest Connor is lying. Tim can't imagine why he would, but something here is evading him, and he needs to understand this now. No, I don't know. Maybe? Connor ducks his head, hiding from Tim's scrutiny. I didn't think I liked guys like that, but then I met you, and I can't stop thinking about you. I like you more than any girl I've liked before. But this doesn't mean I like guys like that, you know? With that, everything falls into place. Tim's experienced the same confusion and denial when he first found out he liked boys, so he can sympathize with Connor's plight. Alright, I understand. Connor perks up and meets Tim's eyes. You do? Does this mean you'll let me take you out to dinner sometime? The corners of Tim's lips pull upward into a smile. He doesn't try to stop it this time. Connor is just like an excitable puppy. Give him a bone and he'll run around in circles for it. Maybe, yes! But I think you have a bit of self-discovery to do before getting into any committed relationship with a boy. Oh, Connor's shoulders drop again. So you don't want to go out with me? Tim sighs. Connor's mood swings in this conversation are starting to wear down on him. I didn't say that. I just meant that you should take some time to think about why you like me first. I don't want you to think you like me just because I'm pretty enough to pass for a girl. Once you figure it out, text me. Connor stares at Tim as he writes his number on a loose piece of paper and rips it out of his notebook. Tim leaves Connor sitting on the middle bench with the paper clenched tightly in his fist. Maybe Connor will figure this out sometime soon. Tim hopes Connor figures this out. The guy's exactly Tim's type, and he would love a date with him. If he can say for certain that it is Tim he is attracted to, not the idea of a pretty face. Connor. Hey, I think I figured it out. Boy or girl, it doesn't matter. I like you. Tim smiles at his phone as the messages come flooding in. In that case, I look forward to that dinner with you. The end. Hi, thank you for listening. I'm Chloe. This is my channel. I hope that you enjoyed the podfic, and I hope that you enjoyed watching my makeup if you did. If you watched me doing that. I hope that you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you in a week or two. Thank you so much for listening/watching. Goodbye.